What's up, Weirdo Swarm? You are listening to Podagon Infinity, the podcast that opens the door to all things King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. My name is Joe.
And my name is Spenser. Deadstick. Deadstick. I'm a bird with a broken wing. Sorry, that is obviously the central theme, the central focus of our episode today, and we will get to it. We're obviously stoked, as you can tell. But before we get into Deadstick and all that good stuff, I want to say, hope you all enjoyed our episode on Sketches of Brunswick East. That was a really fun in-person recording session that we had for that one. If you haven't listened already, please do. I also want to give a quick shout-out to ex-user at SketchesGiz, who came through with some very kind words. They posted on X, "You are both such eloquent and intelligent presenters. This was done with so much class and intention that as a listener, I can feel how much love you have for this band and its music." Thank you so much, Sketches. Username checks out. We could tell how much you love this album.
Yes.
And we're glad you enjoyed the episode so much. They also give some little background insights on some of the songs and a couple of the nuances that you can check out if you're an ex-user. But yeah, some very kind words. Those really do mean a lot. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, for real. That was super sweet to read that. And we're glad you're excited, and we hope you stay along and continue listening with us because we have a lot of fun doing this. So, unlike that last episode, if you heard it, we actually recorded in person for the first time, which was a lot of fun. But today we're back to our usual stations of recording remotely from each of our homes. But other than that, there is nothing ordinary about this episode today. We are breaking the usual album discussion format for this very important news, very exciting new stuff that is happening, because we just got, of course, the release of Deadstick, the next single off of the upcoming Phantom Island album, and we're really excited about that. And I just feel like there's a lot to talk about with that song, with the album in general, with all fun, exciting Giz stuff happening in the world right now. So we're taking a break from the album discussions to talk all of that today, as well as going through the Reddit AMA that the band just did the other day, same day that Deadstick dropped. It was Tuesday, April 15th, and they did this Ask Me Anything on Reddit, where people were able to submit questions and the band answered them live right away. And there's a lot of really cool, exciting stuff, some really great questions that people posed, and some really great answers from the band, as well as some that are just kind of goofy that'll be fun to go through. So that's going to be the other half of this episode today.
Many people have already shared, by the way, the definition of the term deadsstick, but just to reiterate off the top here quickly, deadsticking, also known as volplaning, is the landing of an airplane or spacecraft without power. It requires intense focus from the pilot, which you might expect. They have to consider factors like speed, angle of approach, finding a reasonably suitable landing spot, and so on. In my further research, though, I found a little article online from Smithsonian Magazine that gives some history behind the term itself, deadstick. Most people, myself included, initially thought that it's referring to the control stick in the cockpit that the pilot uses going dead and rendering itself unusable. That's apparently not the case, though. The first paragraph of this article says, and I think we can link to this in the show notes later on, "When the engine goes dead, the control stick remains effective. The word actually emerged from Britain's Royal Air Force during World War I, so one guess is that in the era of wooden propellers, an engine failure reduced the propeller's usefulness to that of a dead stick." And if you think about it, that wooden airplane on the Flight B741 album cover, that same plane which is now crashed and engulfed in flames on the Phantom Island album cover that we can now see, it checks out, doesn't it? A literal dead stick, or series of dead sticks.
Yes, it is definitely wood. So, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes you wonder if they thought that hard about it and did all that sort of research and stuff. Probably not, but who knows? Maybe it's all meant to be that way, and they're thinking deeper than we expect.
Who the hell knows? Yeah, and also this factoid has been circulated as well, but there was that lyric in addition at the end of the extended version of the song Extinction off of the Silver Chord.
Yeah.
"Just like rats into the sky, fly into the moonless night, Mirage City on the ridge, Beowulf, can you land deadstick?" So much Giz lore packed into those 4 quick successive lines, but of course Deadstick being right at the end of those that we all discussed. Supposedly that was going to be the very next follow-up album. Flight B741 was maybe going to be a double album or a little bit longer before they decided to eventually split them into separate projects. But I'm so excited that we're finally getting into sort of the foundation pieces being built and being shared with the fan base with these first couple of singles from album number 27 dropped now.
Yeah, and on top of the release of Deadstick this past Tuesday, we also got some more details about the album itself. So when the band originally dropped that teaser for it and they announced the tour and put out Phantom Island as the single, they didn't give us the release date of the album, and we didn't have like a track list or any other info about that, but we got all that now. We got the official announcement that the album will be out Friday, June 13th, which is Friday the 13th, by the way. That's I don't know if they planned that for any particular reason, or if there's some kind of eerie element to that they wanted to do, or it was just convenient. But Friday the 13th in June. We also got the official showing of the unveiling, I guess you could say, of that album cover, which some of us saw through the Deadstick leak that happened like a month or so ago, whenever that was. And some people weren't sure if that was just a cover for the single or if that was going to be the new album's cover. But with how intricate it was and everything, I was certain that was the album cover, and that turns out to be the case. It also turns out that I was right about a couple things. When we first heard Phantom Island, and we didn't talk about it too much on the show itself, but we put out some videos on our social media just of me and Spenser each solo giving our reactions to it. And I had said that I believe Phantom Island is going to be the opening track of the album, and that it's also going to be the title track, as in the album is holding the same name, Phantom Island. And I was right about that. Now we officially know that for sure. My reasoning was that Phantom Island kind of felt fitting to go along with Mirage City. Like it's another place, and like Mirage and Phantom are both words for things that are like kind of not really there or kind of ethereal or whatever. So there was like a lot of connections in the naming there. And so, yeah, and because the tour was named the Phantom Island Tour, and they said they're going to play the album in full and all that, I'm like, okay, that's got to be the album name. So I hit the nail on the head with those. I have been validated and satisfied in being right in those cases. So yeah, that is exciting.
Gold star for you there, good sir, on getting that prediction correctly. I have to say that I think the tour being named the Phantom Island Tour, I think that was the dead giveaway in my mind, that was going to be the name of the album. But yeah, cool stuff, man. We were right on a couple of predictions, or I should say you were right for the most part there. So as we record this episode, almost 2 full months to go to wait for this thing, but I'm sure the wait will be worth it in the end, as it has been with pretty much every Giz release, at least in the time I've been a fan here. Let's start exploring the song and its music video now.
Yes.
Joe, I want to let you go first. Like general overall impressions and vibes and feelings you get from this song.
Okay, yeah, so I have a lot to say about it, so I'm not going to lay out my entire page of notes and thoughts on it right away. I'll let us kind of go back and forth a little bit, but I'll just say right off the bat, my God, this song is incredibly fun. It's very danceable, just good vibes all around, at least musically. I haven't done too much digging into the lyrics yet, and I haven't really tried to draw too much meaning from it yet. I think that might be something better saved for a future full album discussion later after it's out and we've spent more time with it. We already knew that these new songs were going to have the same kind of old school rock style as B741, and this song is certainly no exception. It definitely feels like it came out of those same recording sessions. B741 had some great catchy, dancey tunes on it as well, but God, I think this honestly eclipses all of them in that perspective of just the upbeat, just dancey, good vibe stuff going on here. The horns that are present in the song really just add a whole new element that really elevates it in that way.
Yeah, it's a really different mood from the song Phantom Island, and we're going to get into some of our listener comments and opinions here in a few minutes, but couple of notes that I had jotted down here. The instrumentation is kind of what you hinted at, much more brass forward than Phantom Island. You got the saxophone, the trombone, very much the forefront, whereas Phantom Island has a lot of strings and piano and overall much darker mood, which originally, by the way, led me to believe we would be getting an altogether very dark album, but this song would suggest to me maybe not necessarily. This album might, after all, have a little bit of sunshiny and hopefulness sort of vibes going on, but it'll probably be a fun mix of both of the above. I want to say that also there is another element of scene setting and exposition in the song as there was on Phantom Island before it. And it's also leading me to believe that this is going to be kind of a quasi-concept album, given that it ties in with B741 and there's very much a storyline going through it. This song has kind of a, you're probably wondering how we got here, kind of feel to what I can make out of the lyrics and of what the music video puts together. It's like, oh yeah, so basically this plane started failing and we started plummeting toward the ground and then we all ended up here, and what do we do?
Yeah.
So a little bit of backstory going on, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's definitely going to be a direct continuation of everything we heard on B741 as far as the misadventures of our dear piggy pilots here. So that'll be really fun to see what kind of shenanigans they get onto on Phantom Island. It's going to be really, really fun. One similarity that we're getting from these first two singles in comparison to the songs on Flight B741 is that we're hearing singing from a variety of the different band members. On Deadstick, we're getting verses from Stu, Joey, and Ambrose in that order, which is just great. It's a nice variety. It's great to hear all their voices going back and forth, and so I'm hoping to hear a ton more of that on the rest of the album. I think that's going to be awesome if they continue doing that sort of thing. Spencer, you kind of already touched on this a little bit already, but I think Deadstick is a great sonic contrast to Phantom Island, the latter having much more emphasis on piano, strings, and an overall moodier tone, while this new track, as I've stated clearly enough already, is just upbeat and dancey, man. It's just so fun. And another contrast with it as well is that it's quite a bit shorter too, coming in at just 3 minutes 35 seconds, with Phantom Island being over 5 minutes. So Deadstick is really that kind of standard radio pop song sort of length, which makes it a great song for them to put out as a single, honestly, and also gives it a ton of replay value as well.
100%. And there's a certain timelessness to this track, I think, and definitely a single / radio accessibility, if you will, factor to it. I've seen comparisons to Chicago with the brass heavy involvement in the song, as well as even Bruce Springsteen and his E Street Band, given the stylistic choices.
I was struggling to come up with some sort of comparison of like what older artists or like 70s rock band or something this kind of reminds me of. You might be onto something there. Maybe also a little bit of like Steely Dan or something, maybe I've seen
absolutely.
some people say. So. But continuing the comparison with Phantom Island, I do feel like Phantom Island is a bit more dynamic in its sound, which, you know, is helped by the fact that it is longer, so it just has more time to go through some changes and some different sounds, different sections of the song, whereas Deadstick is a lot more static in its tone. It kind of stays in the same place the whole time, but I don't hold it too much against it for that because it is such a short track and still does a great job of doing what it does with that sound.
Yeah, and I think the fact that you have 3 of the different guys singing on the track really lends enough variety to it. I think just now you said something like it stays a little more static. In terms of its energy level, yes, but I would argue there's still plenty of variety in it because you have Stu's kind of lower register that he's singing in to start off the song after the instrumental intro, and then Joey is just absolutely belting as he continues his incredible vocal development and growth, and then Ambrose with his bringing down the house moment when the instruments drop out, Deadstick, Death Wish, na, 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 na. I haven't taken the time to obviously make out each and every one of the lyrics, but vibes are high.
Yeah, that is a great point. You know, having the different vocalists does help break it up a little bit and keep it fresh, which is actually it's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. And yeah, speaking of their vocal delivery, the guys are sounding so good on this. I know a lot of people have pointed out, you know, how some of them have grown over the years as singers, but my God, I mean, they sound great. Stu sounds great. Joey is really giving it his all. He is full on belting, like you said, putting his whole like essence into it. And Ambrose with his high pitched, raspy, just classic vocal delivery. He's sounding amazing as well, hitting those higher notes without missing a beat. So yeah, they all sound really, really great on the song. I'm so excited to hear more of this. Just one final comparison with the previous album. Like B741, most of these new tracks' run times are on the shorter side, at least, you know, within context of a lot of other Giz albums with their long-ass tracks. Reddit user Dare I Care posted a screenshot of the album from Apple Music recently, which lists the total runtime of the album, as well as the runtimes of each individual song. There is one song called Lonely Cosmos, which is track number 3, right after Deadstick, that is a little longer than Phantom Island and coming in at 5 minutes and 35 seconds as the longest track on the album. However, Deadstick does appear to be the shortest song, with the rest of them coming in between the 4 and 5 minute mark or so. The album appears to have a total runtime of 47 minutes, which is actually a pretty decent length and slightly longer than Flight B's total length of 43 minutes.
Yeah, I'll be really curious to see where else this goes. We obviously haven't heard any other tracks aside from a little bit of Grow Wings and Fly, which we still have not heard in a studio setting, save for what we heard in that brief little Instagram video snippet from the band. But there is so much more yet to be heard of this album, obviously. It's going to be 2 long-ass months of waiting, man. But again, I think it's all going to be worth it in the end.
Yeah, 2 long-ass months of waiting for the studio album, and then about another month or so until we get to hear this thing in its entirety live when they kick off the North American Orchestral Tour in Philly. So lucky us. Very excited for them to kick things off here in our city, and I just know Deadstick is going to go super hard live and be a really exciting, fun time for everybody there. And I cannot wait to hear it when that tour kicks off, along with the rest of the album. I'm so excited.
Me too. I'm so pumped as well. We obviously have another aspect of this song to get to, and that, of course, is the music video. You want to jump into the discussion on some of that now?
Yeah, let's get right into the music video. So the whole thing takes place in the same location on this open, grassy bit of land along a shore. There's a crashed plane in the background, and all of the band members are there in their same flight suits that they wore in the Lay Risk video. So that is a familiar sight to see right off the bat.
I want to give a couple of production credits here at the top. This video is directed by Guy Tizak. My apologies, I don't know exactly how to pronounce that, but early February on Instagram, he made a post that made ripples, of course, throughout all of Gizdom, and basically asked, does anyone own property in the Melbourne area that he could use for filming that includes a cliff in the setting? And he posted a little screenshot of an old music video from the 70s, I think it was, kind of saying like, is there a cliff, something like this that I can use somewhere? And obviously he eventually found it. And that crash plane that you mentioned, there's actually a little bit of tie back into Giz lore here as well, believe it or not. That cardboard crash plane was made by a company called Box Wars, who also made the Vulture in the People Vultures vid.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So I unearthed that little factoid just earlier this morning or late last night here, shortly before recording. But I just went, oh my god, that's a pretty cool company. It's able to put together, like, even though they look goofy and ridiculous on the surface, I think that's part of the point of just making the videos entertaining and funny, while still making them such a point of pride for the band. I love the different groupings and kind of the blocking of the music video. You see the band members standing in various places, Stu standing at the top of a cliff with that parachute, which is less of a functional looking parachute, more of like a elementary school gym class kind of parachute, if you know what I'm talking about.
Okay. That was exactly what I was thinking too. It looks like one of those, where everybody throws it up and runs under an elementary school. Those
were the days.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a super functional parachute.
But you have Stu with that parachute on his back, lip-syncing along to the music. You have Joey just hoisting his guitar and putting his arm around Lucas and then around Cookie and squeezing Cookie's cheeks. That, by the way, that little like freeze frame, I was able to preserve that with a screenshot and put it on our story. It said, yeah, this is going to be me and every fellow Gizhead trying to get their significant other just totally into the orchestral show while they're kind of going, okay, sure, let go of my face.
Yeah. and I actually saw as well that when you put up that story, your own wife responded to it as well, because she's going to be getting dragged along to that show with you. So she knew you made that, and that was exactly for her, basically.
Sorry, not sorry.
And my girlfriend as well, who's going to be coming with me.
There you go.
Yeah.
Sorry, not sorry.
To touch on some more of the production elements, I want to talk about the actual footage itself and the cameras they're shot on. You have these two different cameras throughout the music video that it cuts between. There is one that's very sharp and colorful and looks great, but it just has this little bit of film grain to it. I'm not sure if that was just a digital effect or if it was shot on an actual film camera of some kind, but knowing them, there's a good chance that's possible. And the other is this very gritty black and white footage that I believe was filmed on an old Super 8 camera, if I'm identifying that correctly, based on one of the behind-the-scenes photos from the video shoot that the band posted on social media. You could see the one camera guy. I don't know if it is Guy Tizak or if they had a crew of a couple camera operators or whatever, but somebody, it was a behind the scenes shot of somebody pointing that camera close up at Ambrose's face while he's passed out on the shore. That gave me the idea that it's that kind of camera. But it adds a really cool effect to it. And speaking of Ambrose, dude, that's got to be my favorite part of this whole video, is the band just vibing, having a good time, dancing around on the shore while Ambrose is violently dying and coughing up seawater on the shore, just completely abandoned over there until, or at least until eventually he springs to life when his verse comes in and he's dancing around and he's all good. But God, that shit had me cracking up the whole time when I first watched it.
Yeah, and you might remember back to a previous sort of teaser post on the official King Gizzard story on Instagram, where Ambrose was kind of outfitted in that dark green jumpsuit that the band members are all wearing, and he had his face kind of marked with all these scars and wounds and blood, and right. I think everybody knew right away, okay, this has to be part of a music video shoot coming out soon. Speaking first to the Ambrose dying and writhing on the beach in that black and white footage, you said he kind of coughed and spit up seawater. That looked to have maybe some color and some thickness to it. Even though it's black and white and you can't actually see color, it didn't really look like water to me, so I'm wondering what they did in the shoot. Did they have him here, stuff a couple of spoonfuls of yogurt in your mouth, like thinned out yogurt or something, or what, or pudding or
Vegemite.
Something? Oh, God. Ugh.
Vegemite mixed with water, and then he's like gurgling that up or something. Yeah, it's pretty.
I do wonder what that was.
Yeah, it is pretty gnarly looking. So I don't know. I'm always curious about little behind the scenes tricks like that and what people will use to get different visual elements to simulate different things like that. But yeah, that was so funny. That's my favorite part of this whole thing. But on top of all the band members being in the video, as you'd expect, there are also a few horn players. There's 2 saxophone players and a trombone player that are all together. They make an appearance right at the top of the video. And there are also some dancers, just some miscellaneous random people who are all dancing in a circle around Ambi when he comes out of the plane and starts singing his verse. That is really fun. He's like shimmying around all excited, like, I'm back to life, I'm all good, I'm not choking and dying on the beach anymore. And then he's surrounded by this circle of dancers. So we get a nice variety of extra people in this video on top of just the guys.
Yeah, playing off of what you said about Ambrose just now in his part when he starts singing his verse after he pops out of the crashed plane, that dance that he's doing is almost exactly like what I imagine going with that part of the song. I remember actually putting that song on when it was just the leak that we had gotten our hands on, thanks to an anonymous friend of ours who hooked us up.
Yeah.
I had that going in the car when my wife and I were coming back from dinner one night before the single actually dropped, and she saw it on my display screen. She's like, "Oh, it finally came out," and I'm just like, "Oh no, this is the leak." And so I was like, kind of like
that exclusive stuff.
That's right, we got the hookup, baby. So I was like doing this like gyrating with my hips and my torso in my seat in the car as we were driving back home from dinner, and I feel like I was kind of doing that same almost like chicken wing looking like arm movement right up about chest height and kind of moving the hips and torso back and forth during Ambrose's part, and lo and behold, it pretty much became just that in the music video. It's like I was connected in some way. I also want to draw attention to the one saxophone player in this video, and I'm sure other people have noticed this too. the guy in the blue hat and like I think it's a green and blue or green and yellow vest or jacket or something, and he's wearing sunglasses. He has a cigarette that he's smoking intermittently during the video. There's one scene, I think 12 seconds in, he has the cigarette braced within the valves of the saxophone, and he's smoking it from that position as he holds the sax. And then later, almost 2 minutes in, it looks like he's tapping the cigarette ashes into the saxophone, or maybe it's just a camera angle trick. I don't know.
No, I saw that. He smokes like through the valves and then later ashes it right into the saxophone. This guy's a king. Doesn't get much fucking cooler than that, I guess.
I guess not.
There's a recurring element in the video that I noticed that has a little connection back to B741. There are several shots of pigeons in the video. Actually, right at the beginning, the video first opens up with that gritty black and white footage, and it took me a minute to even figure out what I was looking at, but it's a ton of pigeons on the ground, and then there's some cuts to pigeons on the ground or flying around or whatever throughout the video. And I realized that there's another name for pigeons, and that is rats of the sky. Yeah. So there's another connection back to B741 for you. God, that was hard to say. B741 for you. Yeah.
All interconnected in so many ways. I want to also draw attention to two of the figures in this video. There's one guy with a Hawaiian shirt and a Panama hat that's part of that dancing group around Ambrose. That guy looks like the stereotypical tourist who just is making the best of this situation. Now, the plane crashed, that sucks, but hey, we're having a little dance party with the band here. And they're just like swinging and bouncing around, swaying to the music. And then, of course, there's the masked person with that like devilish looking mask, which was also another photo teased on the band's Instagram story at one point. I don't know if that's going to be a recurring character in the lyrics or the storyline of other songs on the album, but I'm curious to see if that plays in to the rest of the album one way or another. And finally, I want to say that if nothing else, I think this video is proof that there's no such thing as over-preparing or over-packing when going on vacation. There are the memes out there of like, okay, I got to pack enough underwear as if I were going to shit my pants 3 times a day while I'm away, you know? And then just stuffing your bags full of that. There's another side of that to where it's like, should I pack 2 French horns or 3 to go on this vacation where I'm never going to have to play instruments for any reason? These people apparently came prepared with all the saxophones, the trombone, so never say never.
This is why I always overpack for vacations. You never know. Always be prepared. One other little favorite moment of mine is towards the end of the song when everyone is sort of walking away in a single file line. You got the band members, the dancers, and the horn players, everybody, except for Joey. Joey is kneeling on the ground facing away from the line, back sort of towards the camera, and just screaming, just screaming. Of course, there is a big scream in that part of the song, but it's a really cool element it's really cool to see him screaming in that moment. And I have the video up here right now. I'm pulling it up, looking at it again. But yeah, he just screams, yeah, and he is giving, again, we said he really belts and really gives it all in this song. He is like screaming bloody murder with all he's got, and it sounds great. It adds to the overall hype of the song. And like a few seconds go by after it cuts away from him screaming, it goes back to the band members, Ambi singing and everything, and then it cuts back again to him still kneeling there, still screaming. Like he just everybody's walking, getting further away, and he's still there just holding out that long scream. I love it.
And kudos also to the person who screen grabbed that first shot where Joey's facing the camera and the other people are walking away in the background, and people put the text with it, when I see the line for posters is too long at the Giz show, and then he's on his
the merch line at the Giz show. Yeah. Dude, people were quick with the memes from this. There's been some really good shit coming out of it. I'm having so much fun. Yeah,
same here.
So that just about sums up our reactions and immediate thoughts on the song and the music video. We're going to go ahead into reading some of the listener-submitted reactions that we got. So thank you so much if you're one of those that left a comment or sent us a DM with your thoughts on the song. We're going to just go back and forth and read these here. I'll start off with this one from Badass Skeleton Holding a Burger from Blue Sky. Okay. Quote, Ambrose having a seizure and dying is the best part. Yeah, and then you're right there with me. That's exactly my thoughts too. My favorite part of the whole video is just the cuts to Ambrose just thrashing around and dying on the beach.
I saw that username, by the way, during brief quiet moment at work yesterday, and I just busted out laughing, cutting through the quiet of the building.
Yeah, that's good.
But yeah, that's an entertaining part of the video for sure. Another Blue Sky user, Dab Dad, chimes in saying, I love it and hope the whole album has this ska flavor too. I never knew I wanted a ska Gizzard album, but I've been proven wrong. I never thought of this as a ska song, but I think you're not too far off the mark there with all the brass figuring into the picture.
Yeah.
Still don't know if I would necessarily fully put it into ska territory, but it's at least ska adjacent. So, we'll see how much other ska adjacent tracks we get on the album. I'm really curious.
Yeah, I guess I can see where you're coming from with that. The horns definitely give it a little bit of that flavor, but yeah, I'm sure we're going to hear more similar stuff. I think we're going to get a nice balance between the moodier strings and stuff of Phantom Island and then the upbeat horn action that we get on Deadstick. So I think we're going to get a good mix of all of that. Another Blue Sky user, and Berlin, that's with 6 capital A's, says, what if the guy in the song is the same guy as in Flight B741, the title track, the song, since they're both on planes that might not land? Yeah, I mean, that's a good chance. I think a lot of the perspective of who's singing on B741, we're getting all these different voices, and I don't know if they're meant to be all from the exact same pilot or if these are like thoughts and feelings of the different pilots, because obviously we know there's these like 8 flying pigs on the plane or whatever. So yeah, I don't know, it's hard. I don't know if everything is maybe meant to be from one perspective or coming from a variety, but yeah, I mean, I think you're onto something there with that.
I wonder what this user's favorite band is. By the way, when I saw the username first, there are definitely more than 6 A's. I shortened it a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Glad Mega and Berlin fan apparently could chime in on a Giz thread. Sweet. All right, next up we have Johnny M, who sent us a nice Facebook Messenger DM. Johnny says, my opinion needs a big preface because with KGLW, my likes and dislikes are always changing. Never thought I'd like Silver Cord, but I freaking love it now. I also don't really like to listen to the singles too much before an album drops because I know it's going to affect that first listen at midnight on June 13th. So with that being said, I'm not really a fan of this new tune. I like every song on Flight B741 more than this one, but you can tell it's still in the same realm of tunes. To me, it sounds like a leftover or outtake or B-side from that album. I love that they're bringing in the horns and orchestra, but it just sounds kind of muddled. Like, I feel like I've heard that guitar riff and those same vocals before, but they sounded better last time. I set my alarm early that morning for the video debut on YouTube, but overall felt a little bummed out. Anyway, I'm sure I'll come around, and I'm still very excited for the full album, just not really feeling this one. Anyway, keep up the great work. I'm flying up for the Philly show this summer, so hope to bump into you guys. Hope to bump into you too, Johnny. We'll hopefully see you there at that Philly show. That message, by the way, edited slightly for brevity's sake, but okay, this is the first of, I think, a little bit of the mixed nature of these reviews we're getting, which kind of makes things a little more interesting. I am seeing a lot of people, Joe, who are not really fully feeling the brassy exclusivity of this song compared to the more rich, full, well-rounded Phantom Island, but I think it's just them going for a different feel on a different track, simple as that. But hey, everyone's entitled to their opinion. Nope, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate hearing an opinion from someone who's not feeling it too much, because obviously we are both very much into it and having a good time with the song, but of course it's not going to be for everybody, and some people might prefer some other songs on the album, or maybe this album's just not going to be their favorite, and it is what it is. That's just what comes along with an artist that puts out such a variety of stuff in all different sounds. There's a little something for everybody, and not everybody's going to love every single record or every single song. So appreciate you sending your opinion our way, and we do hope you love the rest of the album. Patrick K on Instagram said, the scream by Joey at the end is my favorite part. Equally hype as Ambi's Hello Evel Knievel, in my opinion. Just wish it was earlier in the song, like Ambi's part in Lay Risk, but I bet the song after Deadstick goes hard too. That's why it's at the end. Okay, yeah, well, first of all, yes, the scream is definitely up there on my list of immediate favorite parts of the song. I pointed that out as well. I love how Joey really gives it his all, and I love how it manifests in the video as well. And, yeah, I mean, it might be up there with the Hello Evel Knievel line. I don't know, that one's really up there. That's really tough to match. I don't know if it's quite on the same level, because it is just him screaming, yeah, like, and holding it out for a while, but but equally as hype. I love that, and I'm curious to see how it leads into the next track.
I will say at the very least that when I have a scream sing session with this album in the future, I think I will belt to full volume that Joey, yeah! So that at very least will be going on in the future. Moving right along to some X comments. X user Vixtacord, who is one of the more busy, high-profile members of the Giz community on that platform. Vixtacord says, I liked it, but the lack of strings is kind of disappointing. Also, the vocals are pretty quiet, but that's just standard Giz things. So, Vixtacord, I agree with you, especially on that stew part. That part of the song has been taken probably the most flack of any part of this song so far, that Stu's vocals are mixed just a little too low into the mix to where it's really hard to kind of pick up what he's saying. And that some people have been arguing, hey, maybe that's just a stylistic choice. They're almost using his voice as more of an instrument in that section. It also kind of doesn't help, and it still sounds good, but I'm saying it doesn't help necessarily in making out his vocals, the fact that he's singing in that lower register here.
Yeah, I agree, especially with Stu's, and I think that lower register has a lot to do with it. I feel like Joey's voice and Ambrose more than anybody really cuts through the mix a little bit better with that higher pitch delivery, so I don't know, but yeah, maybe they could have bumped Stu up just a little bit there. I think I'm definitely struggling to try to pick up on everything he's saying.
As for the lack of strings, I would agree maybe a little bit disappointing, but I would say that with 8 tracks still yet to be heard in full, I'm sure there'll be plenty more strings to come. If this ends up being a song that people pass over a little bit because it's just not their personal preference, so be it. But, fear not. My honest opinion is I'm sure there will be plenty of strings to come on the rest of the album.
At Nerdville says, Joey pops off, Ambi pops off. Kind of sick of Stu's cruddy amp, though, but I do like it a lot more than most of B741. Okay, so Joey popping off, Ambi popping off. Hell yeah, they do. They sound amazing. Mm-hmm. Kind of sick of Stu's cruddy amp. I feel you a little bit. That was definitely a stylistic choice that they went with on B741, and it seems to be the same sound, the same thing for Phantom Island. So, apparently I have a friend of mine who's also a big Giz head and very much into, their production choices and the weird stuff that they do in their recordings. I remember telling me that he used a really cheap one of those little combo, single speaker little combo guitar amplifiers that you could buy for $50 or whatever, or maybe even less than that, something you'd see at a thrift store for $20 or something like that, a really crappy little amp, and then he's just using the built-in gain setting to get the distortion. So not super high-end equipment, but overall an aesthetic choice that I don't hate. I think it's relatively fitting for the sound, but I could also see why you might not love it.
Do you know, Joe, for a fact, one way or the other, if that's what plays the opening lick on the title track Flight B741, that boo-doo-doo, boo-doo-doo, is that the same one?
Yeah, I think so, because it feels like that same guitar sound is present through the entire album, so yeah, I think so.
Okay, so yeah, I can kind of understand where Nerdville is coming from here. Who knows if there's maybe a slightly different aesthetic with a new amp in the future, or if Stu's going to retain that classic sound. We will see with time. At Sponge Heat, aka Willow, says, the thing this single has made me most excited for is hearing the orchestra tracks mixed with songs from Flight, both in an orchestra and non-orchestra setting. So I think they're talking about the fact that there was some overlap in these sessions, but also maybe the fact that we might get some orchestral versions of the Flight B741 songs at the eventual orchestral shows. At least that's what I think I'm getting from this comment.
Oh, yeah. I think that's what they're getting at. I think, we already know that the album's going to be played in its entirety at these orchestral shows, but that they're also going to be throwing in some other stuff as well. So yeah, maybe they'll mix some Flight B741 songs in there that blend nicely with the Phantom Island tracks and add those orchestral elements to them to make them all feel connected, like they all go together. So yeah, that will be really cool. I am I'm excited to hear the new album in full, but I am almost even more curious just to hear what they do with past songs and how they incorporate the orchestra into them. At Fred Taming says, fun song, love the horns. Between Phantom Island, this song, and knowing Grow Wings and Fly is also on the album, got me stoked for the rest. Vid is what it is, lol. It's fun and goofy too. Obviously not their best production by any stretch, but the boys having fun is always cool. Yeah, I agree. It's nothing super fancy or, maybe doesn't have as much replay value as some of their previous videos, that have a little more artistic intricacies that are more interesting to look at. But yeah, it's fun and goofy, and I think that's what they do best in their videos, and it's fun to see them just having a good time with the song in a variety of locations like that.
Definitely. Not much more to add to that, frankly. I think I pretty much see eye to eye with you on that, Joe. So let's move on to the next comment, which comes from @Stuffy_Gruffy, who says, not as good as Phantom Island, but that's not saying much. I hope more songs delve into that Phantom Island Insane Asylum vibe. They're, of course, talking about Ambrose's part near the end of that song. Phantom Island Insane Asylum. I was driving down the turnpike on my way home from work yesterday, and that part came on where the song just kicks into hyperdrive, and so 100%
Yes.
I agree with that comment. I need some more of that feel on the album for sure.
Yeah, and that's part of like why I mentioned earlier that Phantom Island is so dynamic, because it starts off as this moody, orchestral rock song, but it's got the piano and the strings and all this stuff, and then towards the end just turns into a crazy jam. Like, it just kicks ass. It is so cool. So yeah, I would love to see more of that high energy rockin' shit on the rest of the album. Definitely. @Henry Carrot Cake, quote, yeah! Joey's verses on it turned to my favorite Giz vocal performance so quickly, it's scary. So they're also loving the yeah. Yeah, I'm right there with you, of course. It's awesome. It is, as the one person pointed out, just about as hype as the Hello Evil Knievel from Ambi. So yeah, really good shit. Hoping to hear more screaming Joey on the album too. That's good stuff.
Yeah, and Joey's verses, they also said here, are fantastic. And it just makes me hungry for more Joey verses. I really feel like in the past few years, he's come to more prominence within the band, not just with his guitar work and his multi-instrumentalism growing, as has Stu and Cook and Ambrose and all the other guys, but just his sheer singing ability, his range has increased, his presence has improved. I want to see what else he does on this album, because you compare recent work from the band the last 2 or 3 years compared to maybe 7 or 8 years ago, he's doing a lot more, and I'm enjoying pretty much all of it. Next comment comes from @KingDomino, who says, Deadstick is awesome, surely, stands with the best of Flight B, but Phantom Island title track is one of their best songs ever, and it clears everything since Petro. So,
wow.
Slightly hot take there. Yeah, I think that maybe another silver cord detractor here, which, to each their own, that's fine. I'm really getting the sense here that a lot of people are, interestingly, liking Phantom Island more than Deadstick so far.
Yeah, which is kind of surprising, because I feel like Deadstick has the more mass appeal sound, right? Like, it's shorter, it's poppier, and all of that, and it's more, positive sounding and upbeat, whereas Phantom Island is this more progressive, weirder kind of thing going on. But yeah, I mean, I guess the real Giz heads are into that a lot more, and at least from the feedback we're getting, people seem to really think Phantom Island is the better song. But I mean, honestly, they're, as I've pointed out already, there's such a contrast between the two of them. They are part of the same album, they are back-to-back tracks, but they're so different. So I feel like it's almost apples and oranges. It's two different things, two different vibes, two whole different energies that they're going for on them.
Sure.
@Gwets26 or GWets26, aka Wetzilla. Okay. It's Flight B741 with horns, but that title track is something completely different. So, okay, yeah, they're kind of on the same track as the last person. That it's okay, it's fine, it's fun, but Phantom Island is the premier song here, is the better track, the more interesting track. So there's just some even more of that coming through here. And I can see where you're coming from, but I like them pretty equally for different reasons.
Same here. Yeah, as do I. One final comment here, and it's the most simple of the bunch, coming from @CavsTinyPrick, a.k.a. Sonny. Fucking love the shit. Thank you. Appreciate that. It's sometimes the shortest opinions and the shortest pricks, as it turns out, deliver the hardest hitting messages. So thank you to everyone who chimed in on the comments on every platform. We appreciate it all. And so that's what we have as far as people chiming in on the song, especially as compared to Phantom Island. Let's move into now the AMA section of the show here. We're going to look at some of the AMA questions and answers, as Joe mentioned earlier in the show. So we went in and cherry-picked some of the most interesting and some of the most informative questions and answers from that AMA. There were obviously a ton of great questions and great answers, but we cherry-picked some of the ones that stood out to us, whether they're interesting or funny or, educational or informative as to what it means for the future of the band or the music to come. Joe, you want to take the first one?
Yeah, first question we have here. Why did Stu cut his hair? Stu responded, I got head lice. It happens when you have kids, and then all caps, ha ha ha. I kind of dig it now, though. So that answers that question. I think a lot of people, that was the real pressing thing on everyone's minds is, there was just one day where on their Instagram story, they posted I think it was a video of him or a picture of him doing something on a synthesizer, and he just had a completely buzzed head, and his longer hair was gone, and everybody freaked out, like, what's going on with Stu? So yeah, that explains that. He's got a valid reason.
Best of all is I know that he and the band have this thought whenever these everyday things happen that seem banal to them, but surely thought at the moment, people are going to freak out when I post this picture of myself with a shaved head. And sure enough, yeah, of course he was right. But sure enough, though, also a couple of people I saw really express some disappointment when he said, I kind of dig it now, though. There's no way that guarantees that he's going to keep it this way. I would venture a guess that he's going to grow it back out to the length that he had the past couple of years, maybe not to like 2017, circa 2017 length, where it was like down past his shoulders a little bit. But I think, back to where it was last summer, more or less. I'm sure he'll go back to that. Another comment came through, and I appreciated the Darth Vader meme that was posted with this. Where is Hantayumi? Is he safe? Is he all right? That's getting at the where is Padme line from that movie. But as far as Hantayumi, Stu just said simply, he'll be back. We don't know any other details. We don't know if it's going to be on this album or another album.
I'm clapping.
Comforting to know. Yes.
I'm just clapping.
Yes, absolutely. Hantayumi is back. We love it.
My cyborg. 16 horses galloping or 16 horses galloping? Joey responded, possibly slightly problematically, we love us some equine teens, so the latter. Joey, you didn't have to say that, but thanks for answering the question. And, oh boy, I'm not gonna think too hard about that one.
I found that phrasing strange too, but funny all the same.
yeah. There were some responses to it of people like, excuse me.
For a little bit of background for those people who may feel behind the eight ball on this little detail, the lyric 16 horses galloping from Ambrose's verse on the song Phantom Island, some people started to question after a certain period of time, is this saying 16, the number 16 that comes after 15 horses galloping, or is it 6 teenage horses galloping, referring to the 6 band members running their course as a band throughout all these years, beginning as teenagers. So it turns out it was the latter. So whoever it was on Reddit or X or Blue Sky, whoever it was that originally posited that theory, kudos to you. Holy shit, man.
Yeah, and on the album cover, there are 6 horses surrounding the crashed plane. So that, kind of further confirms that as well.
Next up, we have a question from the AMA that said, any chance of future collabs with Indigenous Australian musicians? And Lukey responded, yes, very, very soon. First off, that's exciting. I'm really curious to hear where that goes. Second, many who are likely listening to this show know that the band performed the song Treaty along with the band King Stingray at the tail end of the Austin, Texas show this past November. For a little more information on the background and the meaning of that song, visit the kglw.net page for the song history on that one. Really informative as far as the history of the Aboriginal people of Australia and their continued struggle and plight through the ages, beginning in the 1700s when England came and colonized the continent. But I think it's really exciting to hear the band is specifically planning some future collaborations with Indigenous Australian musicians. You, by the way, in that treaty performance, which is the only time that's taken place live on stage with the band, one of the members of King Stingray actually performed the didgeridoo, and something I have to give credit for in learning further about this band, a little bit of Australian culture. I know that instrument has become like kind of a symbol of Australia for people. That's kind of like one of the top 5 things, along with Vegemite, the Outback, whatever. But I've learned that that's kind of a strictly, you don't touch that unless you're working with an Indigenous musician. That's very kind of a culturally sacred thing of theirs, as I understand it. So I'm really glad to hear the band is apparently actively working with some plans to make that happen in the future.
One person asked about live transitions between Petro and Silver Chord counterpart songs, and apparently the band is working on making that happen at some point, which would be super cool to hear, the full-on metal and synth table out at the same time and going back and forth would be super sick.
One person also asked which music video was the most fun to make. Ambrose says Straws in the Wind, shocker. And Lucas says Trapdoor. That's going back a ways.
Yeah.
That coming from an album, which, by the way, will be celebrating its 10-year anniversary later this year, Paper Mache Dream Balloon.
Ooh, yeah.
I need to revisit that album in some way in the future, speaking of which. That I would be curious to know what the other band members say as far as their favorite music videos to produce. Maybe that'll have to wait for a later date, though.
Someone asked, will the US have a rave tour next year like Europe is getting later this year? And Stu simply responded, I think we're going to retire after this year. So that's it.
What's not clear to me, though, is that if he was joking like, oh yeah, I think we're going to retire as a band after this year, which obviously would be a joke, or if he's being serious in the sense that I think we're going to retire that rave concept in a live setting. I'm genuinely curious.
I just read it as a joke about the band retiring as a whole, but that maybe he did intend it that way, like retiring the synth table and just kind of moving on to other things after that. Yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and find out.
Time will tell. Another question, is there any genre that you all have tried but decided it's not up to your standards, or are you willing to experiment and possibly record anything? Thank you again. Stu responded, usually we're not thinking in terms of genre, but we've recorded a ton of shit that is, shit. So evidently the band has recorded some things that have never seen the light of day, never got leaked, never got shared as demos that they were ultimately not proud of, which as such a diehard fan of this band, that is so hard for me to fathom. But I mean, like any artist, we're human beings. We're not always happy with our work and the things that we crank out. So it's understandable. They've done some stuff in the studio that really never gained full footing.
Next question, Boogie revival on the table, maybe? Stu says, been talking about it since the start, just haven't actually done it. Ooh, I picked this question out because anyone who's been listening knows Spenser and I are hardcore fishing for fishies fans, and I would love to hear Boogie. I remember when we saw them in Philly, and they hit some of the Silver Chord stuff towards the end of the song, and kind of went into this extended jam at the end. It felt like it very much could have gone into Boogie there. Like I was hoping for one more song, and it felt like it easily, something about the melody or the rhythm felt like it could have easily flown right into it. And but alas, it did not. It just kind of came to an end. But I would love some Boogie or any fishies, really. Can I just hear any of that live, please? Thanks.
Yes, please. Anyway, there's a reason that our Dream Setlist episode closed with Boogie. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah, exactly.
Next question. Next question. One person asked about the potential rap album. Stu says, we tried, might have to pick that up again. So it sounds like there are not necessarily any set plans. I think a couple people were voraciously claiming, oh yeah, it's gonna happen totally in the near future. That does not seem to be the case, but if and when that happens, hey, I'm all in.
Yeah, definitely. I love Sadie Sorceress and Grim Reaper off of Omnium, and there was also a little bit of that from Ambrose on Made in Timeland as well. So yeah, I mean, I think they do a good job with it. I think it sounds great, and it would be really fun to see them dive into that more. So I don't know, we can only cross our fingers. Thoughts on official Giz pedals? Stuff like the Torrens Peaker or a microtonal whammy. Also, do you guys want a recipe for pasta salad? So, Lucas, and they're of course referring to, like official Giz guitar effects pedals. And Lucas responded and said, we've got something in the works. So that's really exciting. Oh my God, they're actually working on something like that. But then someone further, I don't remember if it was the OP or someone else, but somebody responded, for the pedals or the pasta salad. So we actually don't know what Lucas is referring there, if he's working on a pasta salad recipe or if they're doing this pedal thing, but would be cool to see.
Hey, I'll take a pasta salad recipe. Mm-hmm. Next question. For this European tour, are you guys going to be able to do the streaming and board streams you've been doing in the U.S. tour? How about the orchestra shows? And the response came from Stu, yes, that's the plan. It's a huge undertaking, but I think it's worth it. Sometimes you just got to take le risque.
Here's my favorite question. What the heck is an all-turd beast? And a response, an uncredited response, by the way, just says, a huge dookie.
Not wrong. Literally an all-turd beast.
Yeah, it's literally spelled out all-turd beast.
T-U-R-D.
I'll never hear Murder of the Universe the same anymore.
Thanks a lot. That's really going to shape our eventual future Murder of the Universe discussion episode.
True.
So thanks for that.
Yep.
Question for any/everyone. If you could pick someone to play you in a hypothetical King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard biopic, who would you pick? Ambrose said David Spade. Lucas says The Rock. Cav says James Gandolfini. Cook says Tom Cruise. Stu says Michael Cera. And Joey, typical Joey fashion, says Catherine Zeta-Jones. A couple of those kind of would make sense. For example, David Spade playing Ambrose. Sure, I could potentially see that. Something about the facial features and the hair length, I guess. I know David Spade kind of has grown it out in the past. But, of course, Catherine Zeta-Jones is Joey. Hey, can we make that happen anyway? That'll be funny.
Yeah. And by the way, Joey was the one that wrote this response, so I don't know if these are all his picks or if he went around the room and had each band member name somebody. But I wouldn't be surprised if this is just Joey's work here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, Giz. Do any of you have a favorite type of apple? And if yes, what is it? Thank you. And Stu just wrote in response, I eat heaps of apples. That's it. Didn't answer the question at all. Just, I eat heaps of apples.
That's funny. I will say I am overwhelmed by the number of apple choices in the produce section. My wife has me grab her a few apples for grocery shopping every week, and the crisp varieties alone, I'm like, what the hell is the difference between these? Honey Crisp, Ever Crisp, Cosmic Crisp, Super Crisp, whatever. I'm like, okay, apples are apples,
Yeah.
There's sweet versus tart, of course, but anyway. Next up, we have French duo Justice seems to love you a lot. Collab one day? And Joey responds, yeah, there's some real OGs. You never know. Hee hee. So I would doubt there are any set plans or any real plans at any point, but that sounds like kind of a pipe dream, like would be cool, but who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, it might not be.
Are you familiar with Justice?
Yeah, I am. So, I'm not like the biggest fan of them. I don't know all their stuff, but I am a big fan of their self-titled album from 2007. That one's a pretty big, pretty popular project of theirs. It has the song Dance, or D-A-N-C-E, on it. That was really big back in the day. I think it's still their most listened to song. But they have collabed with some other artists recently, and including fellow Australian Tame Impala with the song Never Ender that was on their last album, and that track kicks ass if you haven't listened to it. I actually really need to go back and listen to their last album again. I remember really liking it. So, so they have collabed with another popular Australian musician, so you never know. If they are big fans of Giz, then maybe they would reach out and talk, and I don't know, maybe at least do like a song of some sort, or I would love to see Justice do like a remix too of some of Giz's stuff. That could be cool.
I'll have to check them out. I know nothing about them, so thanks for sharing the background.
Sure. Someone stated how much they love the Gum and Ambrose collab, and if there would be any more Gumbros music in the future. But unfortunately for big Gumbros fans, Ambrose responded and said that he thinks that's all it's going to be for that project. That one album was kind of a one-time thing, it seems to be, which is a shame because I do really like it, but I could also see, each of those artists are very busy doing their own things already. Gum, will continue doing his own music, and Ambrose obviously is in Giz and has the Murlocs as well, so he's still going to be plenty busy with other stuff.
Wow, 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 wow. Oh, God. I love that album. I'm sad there's apparently not going to be more, but if that's all they do put out together, at least it was a fantastic effort, fantastic album they put out. What's a deep cut y'all were excited to play again? Lucas replies, I want to play Birdsong again, but everyone says no. Why is everyone saying no? Why is everyone shutting that down?
Stop saying no.
First of all, that's a very simple song. Like, that couldn't be hard to play live. But second of all, God, Fishing for Fishies, Erasure. What the fuck, man?
Yeah.
Come on.
There were actually,
This is sad.
thankfully, there were several people commenting like, guys, listen to Lucas, listen to him, do it. So I appreciate all you soldiers out there fighting for fishies.
Fight the good fight.
All right, and the final question that we had picked out here from the AMA is asking, can we expect more vocals from all of you guys? Love the dynamic on B741 and Phantom Island. Each of you brings something special to the table, and it's fun to listen to. And this is exactly what I was getting at earlier. We love that we're getting to hear so many vocals from different band members on both of these Phantom Island singles so far. And Ambrose, of course, he labels himself as Shrimp, but that's Ambi, responded and said, Phantom Island has a fair bit more of this action. So great, exciting stuff. That answers the question for us. We're going to be hearing a lot of back and forth from different band members, hopefully more Lukey and Cavs too, because they were the two that sort of made their vocal debut on B741, so would love to hear more of those guys get in there and do some more work behind the mic.
Totally, yeah. Excited to hear that more of that is happening, and I would be surprised if even beyond the Phantom Island album that doesn't continue for the band's foreseeable future.
Definitely. I would love to see it, and I would love to hear them do this sort of thing with different genres too, different styles, whatever they end up working with next. Hopefully this is sort of a thing they continue to move forward with in their future.
All right, so that wraps up the AMA questions and answers. We cherry-picked. Obviously, that thread is still there if you want to check out everything that everybody asked and what the band responded to. There are all kinds of fun little things in there. So we're glad you joined us for this episode, talking about Deadstick, the song, the video, and as well as some of the revealed details from that AMA session that went on the same day that the Deadstick single was dropped. We, of course, are very much looking forward to the eventual release of Phantom Island, the album in full. Still not sure if we'll get another single before then, but 3 seems to be the magic number for this band when it comes to dropping singles, so we will see what the next 2 months brings. But anyway, that's about all we have planned for this week. But before we go, we want to talk about what we're getting into on our next episode. We have a very special anniversary within Gizdom coming up next. Joe, what do we got?
Yeah, so next time we're going to be going back to our usual album discussion format, and we are going to be discussing Quarters. Quarters came out on May 1st, 2015, so that's quickly approaching its 10-year anniversary. I think by the time that next episode comes out, it'll be a little past it, but that's okay. We're still getting pretty close, and it just felt like the perfect time, the perfect opportunity to touch on that very unique, very special. Oh God, I say that about every one of their albums, don't I? God damn it, I gotta break that habit. They're all unique and special. We get it, but Quarters, the 4-track, 10 minutes apiece album from 2015. So we're excited to dig into that for its anniversary next time on the show.
Yeah, so it'll be a little bit of a throwback feel as we're going back a decade, as we mentioned. That'll be a fun one to analyze, and we hope you'll join us for that one. Before we go, one final thank you to everyone who chimed in with comments, DMs, messages on the Deadstick video, the song. We love hearing from you all, and for future episodes, obviously, if you have something to share, whether it be a question, a comment, constructive criticism, anything you want us to hear, we would love to hear it, and we would love to potentially share it on the show. Reach out to us on any of our platforms, Facebook, X, Instagram, Blue Sky, and via email at podagoninfinity@gmail.com.
Yeah, thanks to everybody for reaching out to us with all of that. Thank you to the people who wrote all those great questions on the Reddit AMA, and thank you to the band for doing it in the first place. I think it's super cool to get some insight on some of the stuff they've been up to. That has been it for our episode today. We hope to see you on the next one. Until then, my name is Joe.
And my name is Spenser.
See you later, Gators.
Woo! Converge.